ongoing protests outside the Delaney Hall detention facility in Newark, New Jersey. They have now entered their 9th day. Earlier today, Newark Mayor Ras Baraka declared a nightly curfew around the detention center, covering a half-mile zone from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. each day, at least until further notice. The move was backed by New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill, who also said that limited visitation at the facility would resume today at noon. Sherrill addressed the tensions that had boiled over last night at Delaney just last hour on Politics Nation. Watch.
During the day, we had a lot of peaceful protesters that we know. We were starting to see that after dark, a different kind of person seemed to be coming in, seemingly attracted by this violence. They would come in mass. They would have tear gas masks. They would come in with firecrackers and start throwing rocks. So we were working incredibly hard to keep the area safe for the peaceful protesters.
Now, this comes as there have also been allegations that law enforcement escalated the situation. Photojournalist Bruce Kotler told AM New York that a New Jersey trooper in riot gear slammed him into a barrier, knocking him to the ground and even out of his shoes. At the heart of these protests is a reported hunger and labor strike inside Delaney Hall. Detainees inside are alleging inhumane conditions and abuse, in addition to due process violations. Joining us now to discuss is Democratic New Jersey Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. She is currently facing criminal charges from the Trump administration over trying to conduct an oversight visit at Delaney Hall last year. Congresswoman, we're so glad to have you with us. You were inside Delaney Hall this morning alongside House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Congressman Menendez, and Congressman Gottheimer. Were you able to speak with any of the detainees? And if so, what did they tell you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's good to see you all. I was back there today. I've been going to Delaney Hall for the last couple of days, but specifically this past year to make sure that we're having oversight at this facility. And I was back there this morning to talk to detainees, especially some of those who have been on a hunger strike, to just follow up with some of them. One of them is my constituent, an 18-year-old high school senior who is there and has been detained since April. Literally just a couple of months from graduating, wanted to check in on her and check in with other detainees. And basically, they've been telling us the same thing since day one of me going to this facility. You know, there's still problems with food, not getting in, adequate food. Food is spoiled, molded, still problems with medical care. Detainees still can't get access to proper medical care. They're being retaliated against because they're on a hunger strike. So many detainees have been transferred out literally in the middle of the night. So these are the same problems that we continue to see, in this facility that needs to be closed, for over a year now.
Congresswoman, you have constituents who are directly impacted by this and have every right to go in and inspect these conditions. We, the taxpayers, are paying over a course of 15 years, $1 billion for this contract for Delaney Hall to GEO Group, and it's around $60 million a year. And so for there not to be adequate medical care and adequate food to be given, that is disgraceful, given the sum of money that they are getting. But you're on the Homeland Security Committee. What can be done to enforce accountability over a contractor who is not providing these services in a way that is humane and equitable to the amount that we are paying them?
Well, thank you for that question. That's absolutely 150% correct. Taxpayers, you all who are watching the show tonight, you're fronting the bill for these private, corporations to get richer, which are Trump's friends, while they literally mistreat, detainees each and every day. Folks who are not criminals, who've done nothing wrong. They continue to deny them food. They continue to deny them medical care. And it's awful. I think the one thing that we should be doing is continuing to have oversight, right? As members of Congress, we have the right to enter these facilities unannounced or announced and be able to have oversight and bring accountability to this administration. That's why I introduced the No Delay Act in Congress a couple of weeks ago, because we cannot be delayed in doing our job in Congress, and we have to continue to bring these cruel things that they're doing to people to light. That is our job. I think the second part is that is why I continue to vote no to fund the ICE, because at the end of the day, they don't need more taxpayer dollars to treat people wrong and to do cruel things. I'm not going to support Trump's cruel agenda against people. I just refuse to do that. And I encourage anyone in Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, to not do so.
Congresswoman McIver, I'm wondering if you could talk about what it would actually look like to close Delaney Hall. That would be the remedy here. But how would that work, and where would these people go?
Well, first of all, Delaney Hall is being treated literally as a imprisonment for detainees who they call low-level offenders. But really, these detainees here have no criminal record. And really, detention should, number one, we have a lot of problems with detention. But in the past, detention has been used as the last resort, right, before you go and send people to detention. Many of these people in this facility was going through the process to become a citizen. They literally, some of them were underneath approved visas, student visas, work visas. They had court actions already with no further delay, especially the young high school students who are currently detained. And this administration basically disregarded all of those orders and are literally detaining people who have been going through the process, who are here legally. So a lot of times we're focused on folks who are undocumented and not here legally, but these folks were going through the process and they're still detained. And so at the end of the day, these people should not be detained. I mean, you should not have pregnant women detained in these facilities, elderly people who have chronic illnesses in these facilities detained for no reason, no criminal record. And then may I add that many people have signed a volunteer deportation, agreement to go back to their country of origin, and they've still been held for months in the same facility, because at the end of the day, you have to follow the money. This is Trump, choosing, profit over people, and just getting his friends rich, making it about that. And that is why these people are being held against their will, and they haven't done anything. I think canceling this contract for GEO Group is something that we need to do. If Democrats were in charge, they would definitely do it. I know I'm committed to doing it when and if we do get back in charge in the House.
Congresswoman, do these people have a legal remedy? Like, is there anything that they can do? I mean, it strikes me that this all seems like it's ultimately illegal, what's happening here.
Absolutely. Many of them do have attorneys. Some of them, when we talk to detainees and they do not have attorneys, we're able to hook them to, many different resource organizations in our community, our advocates who've been working extremely hard since day one to get people representation. The problem is the backup in court, right? Immigration court is taking so long. So many people are waiting on appeals, waiting to see a judge, and the process is just extremely long. And it's really, making people suffer in these facilities and sometimes lose their lives. We've seen the most deadliest year with folks in ICE detention die. In this same facility at Delaney Hall, I had a constituent who died here in just less than 24 hours of entering this facility, who was a healthy individual, you literally who went into this facility and came out in a body bag. And so at the end of the day, we need more resources in immigration court, faster processes, so that people are not being held hostage and with no criminal record being held in facilities like these that are dangerous.
Congresswoman, one thing that strikes me as I hear you talk is that you are talking about a series of pieces of legislation that, as I understand it, already in some version are law. The due process that these detainees are entitled to, just as an example, as well as you mentioned the No Delay Act. Can you explain why we even need a law like the No Delay Act? Because I at least was under the impression that lawmakers were supposed to have access with no notice to these facilities already, and that basically these facilities are unlawfully keeping out members of Congress from conducting their oversight duties. Why do we even need new laws? Why can't we just enforce the ones on the books?
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. We have been enforcing the law already on the book that gives members of Congress the ability to go to any ICE detention center and have an unannounced or announced visit. Democrats have gone to court, sued this administration for trying to delay us. I mean, you guys remember back last May what happened to me showing up to the same detention center to do my job and have an oversight visit. And literally, that whole chaotic situation happened. But this no delay act is just a way, one, to make sure that we're not being delayed. Sometimes I go to Delaney Hall unannounced and I'm waiting 30 to an hour to 2 hours waiting to get in to have an oversight visit. It depends on how they're feeling. And at the end of the day, we know that this administration, has been operating unlawfully since Donald Trump put his hand on the Bible or didn't put his hand on the Bible. Who knows? But they've been operating unlawfully, trying to stop, different rules and laws at every step that they go. And this is just a way to codify the permissions that we already have and the rights that we already have as members of Congress, and not give, Donald Trump and his administration any shortcuts to try to delay that or stop that. I think we have to use all of the tools that we can to fight back against this administration and make sure that we continue to be the voices for the people that we represent, that I'm able to fight and protect the people, that I represent here in New Jersey's 10th Congressional District by doing everything that I can within my power to do so. And so these additional laws are necessary.
Congresswoman, you brought up last June when the Department of Justice indicted you on the grounds that they claimed you were obstructing their attempted arrest of Newark Mayor Ras Baraka. And you have appealed that decision, but right now, and you pleaded not guilty, but right now you're appealing it with the Third Circuit. Where is that case now? And can you tell me what your next steps are?
So our next steps is to go in front of the appellate court. We're going to be back there on June. We're going to be there, on June 23rd. We filed all motions, I've been going through the process. We're in the second stretch of this fight to have these charges, these crazy, bogus charges dismissed. At the end of the day, like I said, I showed up to Delaney Hall over a year ago to have an oversight visit. And exactly what we've seen ICE and this administration do time after time, they try to circumvent us as members of Congress and others who they disagree with to stop them from doing their jobs. And that's what happened on that day. And so, you look up now, I'm being charged for doing my job. And I continue to, express my innocence to this case. And I'm going to continue to do my job for the people of New Jersey. And these charges aren't going to stop me from having oversight or continuing to show up at Delaney Hall to make sure that I'm holding these individuals in this administration accountable. So we look forward to June 23rd when we're in front of the appellate court arguing to have this case dismissed.
We will keep following your case. And Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, thank you so much for being with us tonight.